I'm Melissa Shanahan, and this is the Velocity Work Podcast, episode number 45. This podcast is for attorneys who are running their own firms. We explore tactics, tools, and stories related to pushing past simply lawyering well and into building a successful firm. Working in your firm and working on your business are two very different things. This podcast focuses on the latter. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to this week's episode. Super excited to be here and talking about negotiating with yourself, which is the topic for today. We will dig into that in just a moment. And let me say this. This is what I wanted to say before we dig in. The reason that I decided to talk about this specifically with you guys today is because I am having so much fun with, I'm really in the thick of things with the groups of people that have signed up for a product which we call Mastery Groups, which is helping these participants implement what they have learned in a class, daily accountability for what they have learned so that they actually start to shift how they operate. The class was called How to Trade Being Busy for Actual Results. And I taught a lot in that class, and I taught everything so that if you wanted to go walk away and implement this stuff on your own, you totally could. But there is something to be said for accountability and coaching as you're trying to adopt this new way of operating that can be very helpful to sort of get you into a different mode. And so the people who wanted that is who I'm working with in June. And I'm learning a lot, which is of course fun, but it really is one of the most fun things I've done in my business. I love facilitating annual and quarterly retreats for clients. That has always been my favorite thing to do, and it's still really high up there on the list. I like building the tracking portals for clients. It's hard, but I really like it. There's so much about my business that I really enjoy, that I'm glad I do enjoy it because it is the thing that provides the value for the clients. Well, this showing up every day, daily Zoom call, every day for a quick Zoom call so that they can report on certain things and we can get some quick coaching around things. And then they have a weekly call. This has been the most delightful thing I have done because everyone that's a part of it is really engaged. Like they're really doing the work, and it's not going perfectly because it's not going to go perfectly when you're implementing something new. And so really being there to help them stay on track and help them keep continuing to see the progress they're making, all while continuing to improve. And it's just such a gift. And they're all getting so much done. Like they're making huge strides towards big results that has been on the back burner they've been meaning to get to for a year plus, right? And that's exciting for them. And so the whole thing is just pretty awesome. And right now we're in the middle of things like they've implemented things and gotten themselves to a bit of a new level. And now they're starting to get to the real barriers, like the real stuff that's hard to push past, to implement and to push past so that they can start operating in a way that where they actually they make a plan and they honor their plan, period. And it all comes together and it works. And it's not going to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect, but it just progress over perfection. And they're really in the thick of things right now. And so what I'm going to talk about today is something that has come out of my thinking about what they're going through has really produced what I'm going to talk about today. And so we have our weekly coaching call tomorrow. So I'm going to really dig in with them on this weekly coaching call, like have them bring some things to the call so we can dig into their stuff specifically and apply this. So that is the gist of why I'm talking about what I'm talking about today. And you guys have all heard me, and I will not ever stop saying that, I can give you all of the everyone wants to know, like they want podcasts around numbers and metrics and how to think about things. And that's fine. And I've done some of those, and I am committing actually to do more of that in the future. But with all of that, like you can make all these grand plans. It's kind of fun to plan. It's fun to reverse engineer your goals. It's fun to figure out what levers you need to pull to get the most impact and to make a plan for how to carry that out. But this stuff, like how you show up, how you operate, how you manage yourself through time is the deal breaker. It is the thing. Like, are you going to make it or are you not towards your goals? It is about how you show up. And I've said many times before, and I will continue to say, you have got to become the kind of person that can have whatever it is that you're shooting for. And that is the thing. You have to evolve. You have to keep growing. And once you do that work and you begin to shift into the kind of person that can have whatever it is that you want to have. Whether it's $1 million business, whether it's you want to work 3 days a week, like whatever it is, like sustain your business working 3 days a week, it doesn't matter what it is. You've got to become the kind of person that can actually have that. And this, like what we're talking about today and what I'm working really heavily with people in the mastery groups is that. And so we'll get into it. So negotiating with yourself. Let me ask you a few questions to get into this. The first question I want to ask you, and I want you to ask yourself this, and I want you to, if you need to push pause and think about it for a second, push pause and think about it for a second. What was the last thing that you did not follow through on? I want you to think about that. Now, for some of you, there's going to be something really big that comes to mind, like running a marathon. I said I was going to do it and I didn't follow through with it. That's fine. And you can totally use that kind of example with as I lead you through this. But if you can think of something small, I want you to start small. And so think of your day-to-day, your operations, like how you're showing up. You said you were going to do X report and you didn't do it. Or you said you were going to have that team meeting and you didn't do it. Or you said you were going to whatever, like something small that you said you were going to do and you didn't follow through on it. Okay, so why don't you get that in your mind? Now, the second question I have for you is, when did you decide to do something different? What was that moment? Was it 10 minutes before you did it? You just didn't feel like doing it, and so you just didn't do it? Or something seemed more important 10 minutes prior? Did you already start it and it was hard, and so then you stopped? Was it the day before it was supposed to happen? You planned like, actually, no, I'm not going to do that thing. Like, when was it? So I really want you to think about what was the last thing that you can think of that you didn't follow through on. And then I want you to start to wake up and get some awareness and just start to look at, when did you decide to do something different than that thing? What was that moment? And I want you to reflect on that for just a little bit. It's different for everybody, but you'll see a pattern with yourself. If you're the kind of person that kind of in the moment you decide, nah, and you switch, that tends to usually be a pattern for you. If you're the kind of person that the day before, it's like you rearrange everything, that's just like how you do things, like that was your moment, right? If you're the kind of person that digs in, but the second it gets hard, you stop, and those aren't only the three options. Those are three really common ones, but what was the moment? Now, so that's sort of part one of awareness, is just thinking about like, what was the moment I actually decided to switch away from the thing I said I was going to do? Now, I want you to ask yourself also, what was the negotiation? What was that like? And the other way to think about this, because this is a negotiation, is what was the thought that ran through your head that convinced you to switch, to not do the thing you said you were going to do? What was it? What convinced you? And here's the funny thing. Most of the time, there are rare exceptions to this for sure, but most of the time, the thought or whatever was running through your head that convinced you to let go of the original thing that you said you were going to do, it's so, like, when you actually look at things you take a look objectively at all of this, it seems so silly and it almost feels embarrassing. That's like, oh, that is what won out? That's insane, right? But I want you to identify it. And if you need to push pause, you need to kind of sort through to figure out like, what was it that actually, like what in my brain convinced me to do something different? That is important to know. The more awareness you have over this, the more effect you can have with the change and the shifting of how you handle these things moving forward. So it's important to look at those things. Now, when I'm asking you, what was the negotiation? What was the thought that convinced you to switch? Really, I want you to think about because sometimes people will say, I'll say, what was the negotiation? What was the thing that caused you to switch? And they'll give me some external thing. Well, my wife called and X, Y, and Z, or a client called and needed something, or like there's something, they kind of place it on this external force that pulled them out of it. And I want you to realize it is never, ever the external thing that causes you to switch. It is your thoughts. It is your thinking that causes you to switch. People outside of you cannot control you. You control you. And so when you decide to switch, whether it was consciously or unconsciously, it is you. You are doing that. You are doing that with your thoughts. And so the more responsibility you can take for that, the easier it is just to wake up to the awareness of, oh, this is what was running through my head that convinced me to switch, to do something different than what I said I was going to do. There are two parts of your brain that inevitably always kind of compete. And it's not, the better that you get at operating and showing up and becoming the kind of person who gets really great results, it isn't that you don't make this, it doesn't ever quiet the voices. It doesn't ever, it might quiet them, but the competing voices in your head, the competing thoughts in your head is never going to go away because we have a brain there's one part of the brain that, and for the sake of simplicity, we'll call it the lower brain. You have the lower brain and you have the higher brain. And the lower brain is more primitive and it likes to indulge in pleasure. So it seeks pleasure, avoids pain, and conserves energy at all times. That's like how it rolls, right? And then you have the higher brain, which is also like, think about your prefrontal cortex, which gives us the ability to plan, which is amazing. We're the only species on the planet that can actually make plans. And so your prefrontal cortex also has a voice that is more in line with what you really ultimately want, right? But they compete. And having an awareness that there is a competition there, and most people that don't have that awareness, what ends up happening is the lower brain wins. It's more enticing. It feels better in the moment to kind of give in to the voice or the thoughts that are coming from the lower brain. So, to put this and to give you more context or to help you think about this even more clearly, the lower brain will think things like, you can do this later. Aren't you hungry? Don't you want a coffee? Right? Like it's that kind of stuff that kind of pulls you away. This is really hard. You're a little tired for how hard this is. Let's take a break, right? Or it will say things like, you deserve to take a break. And it kind of pulls you out of in the moment, it pulls you out of the thing that you said you were going to do. You deserve to take a break. You should go do something different. Just relax, turn on Netflix. Let's get some popcorn. Like, let's just chill, right? So it's that kind of voice. And it often seems to be like, I think of it when in my brain, sometimes I feel like it's almost like, hey, I've got a proposal, because it's tricky. So this part of my brain that doesn't have my best interest in mind, right? Like the me that wants to grow and wants to evolve and wants to continue to move in the direction that I want to move and get the results I want to get. It has to negotiate, right? And so it will be sneaky with this idea that will run through my head like, okay, hey, I got a proposal. Let's just do something else right now. And there's like specific ideas usually around that. Let's go listen to a podcast, go for a walk right now. Let's go get a coffee right now. This thing that you're supposed to be doing right now. I mean, it's hard. So let's just get up and go do something different for a little bit. And then we will come back to this later. We can just move it around on your calendar, okay? Give yourself a break. You deserve a break, right? Like that's how it works in our brain. And so if you don't have much awareness and you haven't practiced at really understanding that this is not in your best interest and that is inevitable chatter that is going to exist in the back of your brain until the day you die. That is not going to go away. And so you have to start to learn how to manage that. And you have to to learn how to deal with that in a way that you feel really great about. And so knowing that this chatter in the back of your brain is just going to be there. The other thing I want to say is resisting it or shoving it down or thinking like, sort of trying to ignore it, exercising willpower to like ignore it and do the thing that you said you were going to do. You will be more productive sometimes in that moment. But the thing about willpower is it's not a long-term solution to showing up and operating the way you want to operate. Willpower doesn't do that. What does do that is you beginning to manage and allowing the chatter to be there and sort of petting that part of your brain and saying, I hear you, but we're going to go do this anyway. We're going to honor the commitment we said we were going to honor. I hear you. We're going to rest later. But so right now, I'm going to go do this thing. I'm going to do what I said I was going to do. And so really just learning and practicing to do that, to have that ability in that moment to not just give in to the negotiation that's happening. Your job is to focus on and give power to the thoughts that will propel you to do the right thing, the thing that's in line with what you really ultimately want. That is your job. You can't shut down the part of your brain that's gonna pipe up and try to negotiate for you to take a break, to abandon your plan, all of that. That's never gonna go away. Your job is to give focus to and give power to the thoughts that will propel you to do the right thing for yourself. And here's what's cool. The truth is, it's not about the thing. It's not about, the importance isn't the thing. The importance is honoring a commitment to yourself. It's about showing up for yourself. The things that you actually get done because you're honoring your commitment, that is just the icing on the cake. That is just it's a byproduct of you operating in this way. And so when I say you need to become the kind of person who can have the things that you want, right? That can have that $1 million practice, that can have that great relationship, that can have that, whatever it is, right? That can have the results that you want to have. This is what I mean by that. If you show up and honor your commitments, you do the things you say you are going to do. And I'm talking the little thing, like step by step by step, the small steps that you said you were going to do, you actually show up and you complete the steps that you said you were going to do. The results that you get are just a byproduct of operating that way. And so it doesn't feel like as much of a struggle or as much of, it's just not as big of a deal to get the things that you want to get to achieve the results that you want to achieve. It really is about the small steps and honoring the small steps. That's it. Eventually that adds up to the result that you want. But when we think of, instead of how we operate, right? Like when we shift our focus away from how we operate and we shift our focus to like external things and just kind of clawing at results, like wanting to get these results. And we wonder why we fall short, and we wonder why we don't, honor our commitments to ourselves. And we wonder, like, it's almost like we just think that's the way we operate. And if we just try harder, then we'll get it. If we just try harder, then, one of these days, like I have this thing on my calendar, but I keep moving it because I get busy. And so I keep moving it and I keep moving it and I keep moving it. And one of these days it's going to get done. And then I'll be a little bit closer to the result. Like, no, this is not like that sounds like a miserable existence. By the way, we have all probably lived that existence. So that isn't a judgment, but really, is that how you want to keep going? I mean, think about it. It's better to take a step back and evaluate yourself and honoring your commitments. And the hardest part of this whole thing is being able to handle that negotiation that is going to happen in your brain. That is the work. Now, listen, I should also say here that if your brain it pipes up with that kind of stuff, you should just take a rest. We should just go relax. You've done a good job already this week, or this week is already just has gone to hell. So like, what's the point? We'll pick it up next week, whatever that voice is that tells you need to rest or that you need something. There may be some truth in it. I don't know. You will get to evaluate that for yourself, but you don't give into it in the middle of it. You don't give into it right when you're about to do the thing. That is not the time to decide that you need to give in to rest, right? So in the moment, you honor what you said you were going to do. At the end of the week, when you're kind of evaluating things and maybe you're making plans for the next week, then that's the time to sort of reflect back and think, did I not build in enough personal time for myself this week? Did I not build in enough rest? Do I need to build more of that in? Then make that planning forward. You do that with your calendar. That's fine. But in the middle of the week, when you said you were going to be doing things and your brain pipes up with, we just need to rest. No, sorry, right? Like that's not how this gets to work. That is the very thing that is keeping you spinning and not achieving in as quickly as you could the results that you want to get. So just know you have to learn to override and to be willing to deal with that negotiation so that you can honor the commitment that you did. And then the next week, when you're planning out your week, you can take that stuff into account if you want to, but you can't indulge and give into it in the moment. That's not how that is not being the kind of person that you need to be to have and to achieve the results that you really want to achieve. So to round this conversation out, the negotiation that happens in your brain, it's in that moment. That is where your work is. We can all make a great plan. It is when it's time to show up for that plan. And, I've talked about this before, but you can bank on not wanting to feel like doing the thing that you said you were going to do when it comes time to do it. You should just expect that. People that make a plan and they think that they're just going to be excited the whole way through the plan, that is unrealistic. That's not going to happen. And it's because of how your brain works. It's because there is this part of your brain that's just like, let's just take a break. You don't need to do that. We can reschedule that. Focus on this thing instead. It feels a little more important right now. It's like it pulls you away from the commitments that you made to yourself. And if you make a plan and you expect that you're not going to feel like doing the thing that you want to do when it's time to do it, and in those moments, being able to experience the urge to pull you away, but you don't answer the urge to be pulled away. You instead show up. You instead say, I hear you. Like, I get it. But we're going to honor the thing that we want to do. You may have a valid point. We'll revisit that when we're making our plan next time, right? It is that kind of relationship that you have to have with yourself. It is the kind of relationship that you have to have with your brain. You have these two parts of your brain, and you've got to be really working and practicing on getting better and better at allowing the chatter of your lower brain while executing based on what the higher brain is saying. You've got to find, there's some dissonance there, and you've got to be comfortable with the dissonance, and you've got to be, and that's a practice. And let me just say, for the record, I teach this stuff, and I still, it's not perfect. I'm not perfect at this. There are times where it's usually pretty sneaky with me because I don't have the thought. I'm beyond at this point where my brain will say, you need aren't you hungry right now? You should go get a snack. And then me just thinking, I'm supposed to do this thing right now, but I'm going to go have a snack. I just don't feel like it. Let's just procrastinate for 10 minutes. I'll do it in 10 minutes. And then that's how I used to be, right? And I had to practice and practice and practice what I'm teaching on this call or on this podcast. And then now it's more, it's sneakier. I don't know how to explain it. And it doesn't happen very often, but it certainly does because I'm human and I have a human brain where sometimes I'll realize that it's almost like, well, let me just go. Actually, it happened last week when I had sat down to do some creation work. I had to really produce content. And I realized, I need to transfer that money. I was going to do that and I didn't do that. I need to go transfer that money. So I log into the bank and that's supposed to take me like 1 minute, right? And before I know it, I'm just kind of looking into a few things and I'm like, oh, I can do a couple other transfers I need to do anyway. It was almost like I was just allowing myself to slip into something. And I caught myself about 8 minutes into it and I was like, what am I doing? Oh my God. It was like I just went unconscious for a little bit. And so I logged out and I went back to the thing I was doing. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's so fascinating. Like there's always going to be those urges to pull you away from the thing that you're doing. And I struggled to get done the thing that I was going to do. I'd already set a tight time frame for myself to get that done in any way. And I just soaked up 8 minutes of it doing something that I wasn't like, it didn't need to be done in the moment, right? So this is something that it's not about perfection. The reason I'm telling you about the areas that it still shows up for me is because it's not about perfection. It is about progress. And it is about understanding yourself. It is about getting to know yourself on such a good level that it really allows you to operate in a way that produces the results you want to produce. And so there's not much more to say about it. I hope that this is making sense to you guys, because the more that you can just practice, be in the practice of this, the better and better and better you'll get at it. It'll be like one small step towards a better default way of operating. And eventually it's one foot in front of the other with this stuff, right? And it's a commitment to continue to get better and better at this stuff. But there will be a time, there will be a day where you will kind of lift your head for a little bit and realize how much you're accomplishing, how much more than you used to, right? And it is because of this. It is because of this. You know, I'm from here on out, when I work with private clients that sign up with me, it's going to be a requirement that they go through the mastery groups that I offered, I'm going to continue to offer it in the future. So it's just going to be a requirement that they do that, because, you know, if I make all these grand plans with a client and then we come back the next quarter or even on our monthly calls, and they have allowed this busyness to get in the way of some of the headway they wanted to make, or whatever, like they allow something, right, to get in the way of the headway they want to make. And that doesn't, at this point, I worked with too many people who are really striving to operate themselves in a much better way. And so, you know, I can't keep indulging the excuses, and it's very difficult to teach this. It's like you need a class to teach this stuff to people. And with my private clients, I do hold their feet to the fire, but I haven't given them this understanding, like this basic knowledge that they are expected to carry with them as they move through. And so now we're going to start to have a way, a really easy way for clients that work with us on a private client level. They're going to be held to the same standards that people that are joining the mastery groups are. Because quite frankly, we are the people in mastery groups. I'm not mapping out their plan with them for them like I do for private clients. So with private clients, I'm mapping out their plan with them for them. And then it is their responsibility to go back and to implement these things. And I can be helpful with accountability for that, but I'm not on the phone daily with them. And so there is this, I'm seeing a bit of a disconnect where the people in my mastery groups, which is a much lighter weight product with Velocity Work, a much lighter weight investment, but they are getting more done than my private clients are because they are operating in this way, and they're blowing their own minds. So I've got to rein that in. So now every private client is going to be required to really make sure they're showing up in the same way that the mastery groups are, which is pretty cool, which is great because it's just added value for private clients as well. So this is really important stuff. And I'm relentless with this with people because it is the way to help you blow your own damn mind. And it makes things way more fun. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and I will be back with you next week. Hi guys, it's me again. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this podcast, you probably understand that growth requires results, not just staying active. If you want to learn how to build your days around getting results, I'll show you how in this zero fluff class that I teach. Go to velocitywork.com/results for registration information. I cannot wait to see you there. If you want to hang out with us on social, come on over to Instagram. Our handle is velocity.work. And on Facebook, it's facebook.com/meetvelocitywork. Cheers, my friends, to real growth and a great life. Show notes from this episode can be found at velocitywork.com/podcast.